The Silent Witness, William Still and the Secret Ledger of the Underground Railroad. The weight of 700 souls was resting on a single ledger hidden beneath the floorboards of a coal merchant's office in Philadelphia. This book, bound in ordinary, faded brown leather, was not merely a record of names and dates. It was an act of treason. Every careful stroke of the pen, every detailed entry documenting a successful escape was a capital offense under federal law. For decades, William Still, a free black man who ran the logistics of the entire Eastern Underground Railroad, held the nation's most dangerous secret, knowing that if discovered, the ledger would not only send him to the gallows, but would also destroy the lives of every fugitive and ally named within its meticulously organized pages.
The year was 1850. The United States, teetering on the edge of civil war, passed the infamous Fugitive Slave Act. This act was a declaration of war against freedom, demanding that citizens, even in free states like Pennsylvania, actively assist in the capture of runaways. Philadelphia, the very place where liberty was declared, became a hunting ground. Professional kidnappers, known as blackbirders, openly roamed the streets, seizing anyone they suspected of being a runaway, knowing the law guaranteed their reward. It was into this atmosphere of terror that William Still, a man driven by a profound family trauma, stepped up to lead the charge. Born in 1821, Still was the son of two formidable survivors, Levin, who purchased his way out of bondage, and Charity Still, whose agonizing sacrifice defined William's entire life. Charity had escaped slavery in Maryland, but in her desperate flight, she was forced to abandon her two eldest children to save herself. This gaping wound in the family soul was William's relentless motivation. He understood that the price of freedom was measured not in money, but in severed kinship.
In 1847, Still was hired as a clerk for the Pennsylvania Anti-Slavery Society. His job quickly evolved. When he became the chairman of the Vigilance Committee, he transformed the chaotic, decentralized aid effort into a cohesive, disciplined, and financially solvent operation. He was not a conductor in the mold of Harriet Tubman, moving physically through the dangerous terrain. Still was the chief operating officer, running the organization from a desk. He established rigorous protocols. Fugitives were never allowed to simply pass through. Every person who arrived, shivering from a false bottom of a wagon or collapsing from days of walking, was processed. Still's office became the ultimate intake center. He provided immediate necessities, medical care, a clean change of clothes, and money. Crucially, he assessed their risk level, verified their destination, usually Canada after 1850, and planned the most secure route, often purchasing expensive rail tickets or arranging clandestine steamship passage up the Delaware River.
The ledger, the record, was the core of his treason. Still kept it secret not only from law enforcement, but for a time from even some of his closest allies. He feared correctly that the oral history, whispered names, and hurried directions would be lost or distorted. He was the original historian of the movement, believing that the voices of the enslaved were the ultimate truth of the American experience. He used aliases and coded language, but the facts were preserved in stark, meticulous detail. Arrived 3 men, 1 woman, from Dorchester, Maryland. Travel, steamer, hidden in cargo. Reason, mistress promised freedom, then broke word. Destination, St. Catharines, Canada. These entries weren't dry notes. They were survival guides and court transcripts waiting for a time when justice might finally listen. The unbelievable family reunion. The tension in Still's life, the constant danger of discovery, balanced against the humanitarian imperative, culminated in an extraordinary moment of personal shock.
In the dead of night, an exhausted man was brought into his office. His name was simply Peter. Still began his routine interview, calmly documenting Peter's harrowing 400-mile journey. Peter recounted the horrors of the plantation, the master he served, and then the crucial details of his origin. He spoke of his mother, Charity. Peter related that his mother had successfully fled north decades ago, leaving behind 2 small boys, himself and his brother Levin. Peter said he had never known her since. As Peter spoke, the factual world of William Still's ledger dissolved. Still felt an emotional earthquake. The details matched his own mother's tragic tale perfectly. The man before him, whom he was professionally obligated to help, was his own long-lost older brother, a face he had never seen, a history he knew only as a family shadow. Still could barely contain his emotion. The entry in his ledger for Peter Still became the most heart-wrenching in the entire volume, documenting not a stranger, but the miraculous convergence of his mission and his bloodline. This event cemented Still's resolve. He was not just helping strangers, he was completing his mother's unfinished flight to freedom. Still immediately rallied the community, raising funds to find and purchase Peter's enslaved wife and children, successfully reuniting the entire family across state lines.
The network and Moses. Still's success relied on a formidable partnership with other crucial figures. He was the logistical anchor for the legendary Harriet Tubman. When Tubman arrived in Philadelphia, she reported directly to Still's office, often with large groups of passengers in tow. Still documented her movements meticulously, calling her Moses in his records. He noted her sheer determination and utter lack of fear. She became the ultimate field operative while Still provided the necessary resources. Furnished her with $15 for her expenses to carry the party to Canada. His documentation of Tubman is one of the most reliable and factual records of her life, saving her accomplishments from being lost to mere folklore. He also worked alongside powerful free black leaders like Stephen Myers in Albany and Jermaine Logan in Syracuse, creating an interlocking communications web that spanned hundreds of miles. The Vigilance Committee was an integrated movement, but still ensured the historical record clearly showed that the day-to-day operation, the risk-taking, and the primary funding often came from the free black community itself. The legacy forged in ink. When the Civil War finally erupted in 1861, the official Underground Railroad activity slowed, but Still's work did not end. He pivoted, aiding the thousands of contrabands or escaped slaves who fled to Union lines and advocating tirelessly for the dignity and fair treatment of black Union soldiers. Following the war, the great fear of William Still materialized. White abolitionists began to publish their own, often self-aggrandizing histories of the movement, frequently diminishing or completely erasing the critical, central role played by black leaders and agents. Still, now a successful and influential coal merchant, would not permit the true narrative to be whitewashed. He retrieved his hidden explosive ledger and spent the next 7 years compiling and editing his material. In 1872, he used his own funds to publish the massive 800-page historical book, The Underground Railroad Records. This act was revolutionary. It was a black man in the Reconstruction era publishing a definitive, authoritative, and documented history of one of the nation's great freedom movements. The book was a direct challenge to the emerging segregated historical narrative. William Still passed away in 1902, leaving behind a legacy far greater than his successful business. He was not merely a conductor of the Underground Railroad. He was its archivist, its historian, and its memory keeper. His record ensured that the stories of the escaped, their dignity, their names, and their terrifying bravery were not just whispers in the oral tradition, but solid, unassailable facts. Still's ledger remains one of the most vital primary documents of American history, a testament to the fact that sometimes the greatest act of revolution is simply to write the truth down.